how about a little book as a treat? Hey pals, Alicia here. I hope you are doing well. And if you're new here, this is the place where we talk about books. Today I am here to bring to you some short books, some novellas, if you will. It's no news here that I love short stories. Short stories are one of my favorite mediums to consume fiction, but I also love short fiction, novellas, short books. There is something really nice about diving into a short book after you've finished a long book as a bit of a palate cleanser. I also love short books for getting yourself out of a reading slump when you aren't really ready to commit to something new and big. Short books are just really great and easy to ease your way back into reading for whatever reason. So I have a bunch of short books to show you today. They are almost all horror novellas, horror short fiction. There might be one or two science fiction adjacent stories in here, but mostly horror. All of them are less than 200 pages. That's kind of the bar I set for short fiction. I don't actually know what scientifically makes a novella. Actually, you know what? So technically a novella is something that is less than 40,000 words, but I'm not counting that. So I have just picked books that are less than 200 pages. So that's Alicia's version of a novella. So anyways, I'm just gonna go through a bunch of books that are short, that are good, that are spooky, that are short. So let's get into some books. So I have read all but one of the books that I am about to share with you today. The only one that I haven't read yet is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones is a Blackfeet author, and this is a horror mystery kind of story that is following a 15-year-old Blackfeet teenager who is being confronted by the ghost of his father in like full Blackfeet regalia. So I guess it's him kind of confronting his ancestry, possibly conflicting feelings about his father. I have not yet read Stephen Graham Jones. I am going to be picking up The Only Good Indians this month. That'll be my first jump in, and I can't wait to read him. Can't wait to read this. This is a very short novella. So next up, I've got Piercing by Ryu Murakami. This is a horror thriller that was first published in Japanese in 1994 and then translated into English in 2007. I really enjoyed this Ryu Murakami. This was maybe my second favorite of his. And this is about a man who is married, and he has just brought his first child into the world with his wife. And he should be the happiest guy in the world. He should be super stoked that he has this new family, but for some reason he is just possessed by this intrusive thought that he wants to stab his newborn baby with an ice pick. And he doesn't want to do it, but he can't get the idea out of his head. Like, definition of an intrusive thought. This is Ryu Murakami is kind of abruptly gory and gruesome and like severe in his storytelling, and this book is no exception. This was gritty, but also kind of fun and kind of funny. There's kind of like a slapstick element to this, and it's really short. Recommend. Next up, we've got We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is a gothic mystery. If you like gothic fiction, if you like gothic horror, and you haven't read We Have Always Lived in the Castle yet, you're missing out. So this is the story of two sisters, Mary Cat and Constance Blackwood, who live in a castle at the top of a hill in this small community. And their whole family is dead except for their uncle Julian from a poisoning. Their whole family was poisoned. So the whole book is kind of you figuring out, getting to know these two sisters and their uncle, also revealing why this whole community around the castle hates the Blackwood family. This is, yeah, creeping, ominous, mysterious, fun and with some unreliable narrators. If that's a trope you like, this book does it well. Next up, we've got Stirring the Sheets by Chad Lutzke. This is a short, emotionally charged horror story. This is about an elderly man who works in a funeral home, and he has just recently lost his wife, so he's kind of trying to navigate his life alone now after so many years of being married. And then one day he is in the morgue at his job, and a body comes in that looks so much like his wife did when he was younger. And rationally, he knows this isn't his wife, but he is getting something. He's getting comfort. He's getting nostalgia. He's just like feeling happy again for the first time being around this dead body. And then so the book kind of takes off from there. This is one of those short stories where everything objectively going on is not good, but you also, from like a character development point of view, you really empathize and sympathize with this character. This novella made me really emotional, given what the subject matter is. I highly recommend Chad Lutzke if you haven't checked him out already. Next up, I've got another novella by Chad Lutzke. I've got A Foster Homes and Flies. This is a coming-of-age story about a 12-year-old boy who is living with his abusive, end-stage alcoholic mother. And then one day he gets up to go to school and his mother has died and she's sitting on the couch and she has died. And he's kind of confronted now with the concept of being orphaned, but also really angry that she has chosen this time to die because he has spent so long studying for his school spelling bee. So he is kind of like, maybe we can just wait until after I have done my spelling bee to call the police or call for help, so that he has a chance to do this spelling bee that he is just really wants to do before he gets, you know, uprooted and moved into what would probably be a foster home. So this again is an emotionally charged, character-driven story that is dealing with a scenario that is very grim and very bleak, but also quite wonderful. Next up, we got a bit of a steampunk story. We've got The Black God's Drums by P.J. Clark. This is a steampunk Afrofuturism story about an androgynous teen named Creeper, and all she wants in her life is to work on an airship. She wants to be like the crew on an airship. And she is also hiding a secret that she has a goddess that lives within her and speaks through her. So this book is just following Creeper in this like cool alternative history, alternative future steampunk world and living with a goddess. Had a lot of fun with this one. This is a very quick read. This is very much slice of life and so much fun if you are at all interested in steampunk and Afrofuturism. Big recommend. Next up, we've got a bit of a speculative fiction, science fiction story. We've got The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. This isn't the best novella I've ever read, but I did enjoy it and had fun reading it. If you are a fan of Black Mirror, you will love The Test. So The Test is about an Iranian immigrant and his family who has moved into Britain, and he is now sitting for the British citizenship test to become residents of the UK. Seems simple, right? Seems easy, right? Well, no! Imagine this is an episode of Black Mirror, and then that's where, and then it just kind of goes somewhere off the rails from there. Next up, we've got True Crime by Samantha Kolesnik. This was a 2020 release, I do believe, and I would categorize this as a horror, family drama, almost Southern Gothic-y in a way. And this is following two siblings, Susie and Lim. And Susie and Lim are the children of absolute psychopath sociopaths. Their parents are absolute monsters, and they have been raised by monsters. And so now they are kind of in their teenage years trying to navigate the world on their own for one reason or another, and kind of the corrupted psychology that these two siblings have are explored in this. Like, what happens to children that are raised in just a hostile, abusive environment, and how does that cycle continue? This book will never even one time make you feel good. This is designed to just smack you around and make you feel like absolute trash, but it is beautifully written and it is a beautiful debut. So if you want to just go to hell for a bit, check out True Crime by Samantha Klesnik. Next up, we've got Elizabeth by Ken Greenhall. This is kind of a gothic horror published in 1976 originally. And this is a story of witchcraft and child abuse. So Elizabeth follows a 14-year-old girl named Elizabeth who has been orphaned and is now living with her aunt and uncle, and I believe her grandparents, and is in a grossly sexual relationship with her uncle. And so while that's happening, Elizabeth is also being confronted by one of her ancestors in her mirror each night, who is a witch. And the two of them together kind of get up to all kinds of spooky, witchy, murdery things. So I love this book because it has a couple of layers to it. I feel like on one layer, it's a witch story. It's a spooky, haunted house, witchy story. But then on another layer, it also kind of goes into the psychology of child abuse and how much of what Elizabeth is seeing, how much of what Elizabeth is going through is kind of a delusional coping mechanism for the sexual abuse that she is experiencing from her uncle. So I really liked this. There are lots of trigger warnings for the content in this, but I also thought it was really well written. Ken Greenhall has a very interesting voice, and I really enjoyed this one. So next up, we've got Hellhound, also by Ken Greenhall. This was published in 1977, so only a year after Elizabeth, and he just got better. Next year, next book, even better than the one before it. Hellhound is about a sentient, sociopathic dog named Baxter who has taken his legacy, he has taken his life, his future into his own hands. Baxter feels like the house that he's living in, the owner that he's living with, isn't the right fit for him. He feels like he deserves something else. He feels like he deserves something better. So Doggy does the murder to get where he wants to go. Hellhound is also first person from Baxter's point of view, and it had a very like Frankenstein vibe to me, where Baxter is very articulate, he is very smart, he is very angry, very psychopathic, sociopathic, but he's also a dog. Yeah, so this was just a really cool character study of what could be going on behind those eyes of that little doggy. I really liked this one. I like this one a little bit better than Elizabeth, and I just recommend Ken Greenhall if you haven't checked him out yet. Next up, we've got The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. This is a very short horror novella, and I didn't love this one. I gave this one about a 2.5 star, but I have heard a lot of positive things for it, so I'm going to include it here just in case y'all have different tastes than me. So this is about a man who is from the UK, but he is living in Japan with his wife as a teacher, and he's just living his life, doing his thing, and then someone starts sliding into his DMs on like every social media, like mail platform that he has, sending him videos that are kind of sexy, kind of strange, kind of personalized, to the point where he originally is thinking this is just, you know, clickbait, spam, what have you, until the point where it becomes very obvious that it is not that, and somebody is targeting him specifically. And the book is kind of exploring why that is and what happens from there. If you like The Ring, you might like this. If you're just kind of interested in the horror of how accessible people are in the world right now because of technology, this was a fun one. This was just a fun little time that'll definitely be easy to read and to get you through some kind of a reading slump, or if you just want to read something really quick, really fast, to bump up those Goodreads goals. Why not? Next up, we've got Dear Laura by Gemma Amor. This is a straight up horror novella, and I loved this. So Dear Laura is about a woman named Laura who is an adult now, but when she was a child, when she was a teenager, she had a best friend named Bobby, and Bobby went missing. Never to be seen again. So no one's heard from Bobby, no one knows where Bobby is, except Laura has a bit of a secret. Every year since Bobby went missing, Laura has received a letter in the mail from a mysterious pen pal who claims to know what happened to Bobby, who claims to know Bobby's whereabouts. But the only way that they will provide information to Laura about Bobby is if she does something for this pen pal. So every time the pen pal asks her for something, and then it kind of gets more and more severe as more and more is asked of Laura. So Laura is essentially allowing herself to be stalked to learn about what happened to her friend. And this is very psychological, it's very spooky. The end is it's a little like okay-ish, but I really liked the journey. Next up, we've got The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. This is the source material for the Hellraiser franchise, if you are familiar with that. In The Hellbound Heart, we follow a man named Frank, and Frank is just a man with insatiable appetites, insatiable sexual appetites, who just wants to experience everything that life has to offer. And he's just in search of the next great pleasure. He just wants to experience it all. Don't we all? And I don't really want to say anything else. Sex and pain and horror, that's what The Hellbound Heart is. Next up, we've got The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle, and this is kind of horror adjacent in the sense that it is based off of, or a retelling of, an H.P. Lovecraft story, but it's also much more of like a fantasy, dark magic kind of story. This is set in 1920s New York, and we are following a man named Charles Thomas Tester, who is a kind of a small-time hustler who gets wrapped up in the plots of this very rich white man and whatever he's got going on in there. This book has magic, it has music, it has the summoning of cosmic demons. This was just a fun little story, and I definitely recommend. Next up, I've got a couple of novellas by Keelan Patrick Burke. I will admit that I didn't love either of these, but they are popular enough to recommend. They were fun. They didn't change my life. So the first one is Sour Candy, and this is about a man who goes to a grocery store and he sees this woman and her child, and the child is just a little monster. He's just like a screamy little devil in the grocery store, and he's just like, phew, I am so glad that's not my kid. And then, like some sort of cruel twist of fate, this man's life all of a sudden becomes wrapped up in the life of this little boy. And it's just kind of a horror that goes from there. And then also by Keelan Patrick Burke, we've got Blankie. And the plot of this story sounds super silly, but I actually like this one quite a bit more than Sour Candy. This is about a husband and wife whose daughter has just passed away from SIDS. She was a baby and she died in the crib, and it was very tragic, and these two people are just absolutely gutted, absolutely torn apart from it. Their relationship with each other has just been obliterated because of the death of their daughter, and they are now separated, and this husband is just trying to pick up the pieces of his life now with his family kind of gone. And then one day he kind of walks through his house and he finds his daughter's blanket in her old room, which he at once feels very comforted by. But then he remembers, like, wait a minute, we buried her with this blanket. How is it here? And then the events of this novella go from there. Scary Blankie, y'all. I possibly saved the best for last. My favorite short novella, short novel from this list is none other than Last Days by Brian Evenson. We all know I am a Brian Evenson stan, so there was definitely going to be a book by him on this list. So Last Days follows a man named Klein. He used to be a detective in his career, but then he was on a case that left him with one of his arms having been chopped off. So he's just like, nah, I'm out. I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm just moving on with my life, not as a detective. So Klein's just trying to live his life, do as he wants. But then he gets abducted and brought into this cult called the Brotherhood of Mutilation. So the Brotherhood of Mutilation, they are exactly that. They are a cult that amputates each other's limbs to bring them closer to God. That's how that happens, right? That's how that works, right? So this is gory, this is gruesome, but this is also really fun and really funny. Like, I found myself laughing out loud, like scream laughing, reading this in like a really like sinister, like ominous kind of way. So if you just want a really fun time, hang out with a really fun character, and travel through a cult, check out Last Days. So there you have it, pals. Here's a nice little stack of short books to maybe get you through your next reading slump, to maybe help you bump up that Goodreads goal if that's something that you care about. I've read all but one of these and would recommend them. They are fun, they are spooky, they'll just take you on a short little trip close to home. So hell yeah, read some of these. Let me know if you have read any of these. Let me know if you want to read any of these. What is your favorite short novella? What's your favorite short horror? Because I want to know, because I want to read it. So thanks for being here, guys. I love talking books with you all. So until next time, see you, bye.